Everyone envied her beauty until the river refused her reflection. Long time ago, in a small village, nestled between the red clay hills and the whispering forests of the east, there lived a girl whose beauty was spoken of in every compound, at every market gathering, and beneath every baobab tree where the elders sat to share wisdom. Her name was Adaeze, which means daughter of the king. Though her father was no king, only a humble yam farmer whose back had grown bent from years of tilling the stubborn earth. The village itself was a simple place where smoke rose from morning cooking fires and mixed with the mist that clung to the valleys like a blanket. Children fetched water before sunrise, and women walked to the stream with clay pots balanced on their heads, singing songs their grandmothers had taught them. Life moved slowly there, to the rhythm of the seasons, the planting and the harvest, the rains and the dry winds that carried dust across the compound walls. Adaeze was the second daughter of 5 children, born between 2 brothers and before 2 sisters. Her mother, Mama Nkem, was a woman of strong hands and gentle spirit who sold vegetables at the village square 3 times a week. Her father, Papa Chidi, rarely spoke unless he had something important to say, but his eyes carried the weight of a man who loved his family more than his own comfort. From childhood, people noticed Adaeze. Her skin glowed like fresh palm oil under moonlight. Her eyes were wide and bright, framed by lashes that seemed too long to be real. Her smile could stop conversations, and her laughter, light and musical, made even the sternest elder soften. But it was not just her face. She moved with a grace that seemed effortless, as though the earth itself honored her footsteps. That girl will marry a rich man, oh," the women at the market would say, fanning themselves as Adaeze passed by with a basket of cassava on her head. "She is too fine, Kai," another would add, shaking her head. "Even the sun is jealous when it shines on her." Adaeze heard these things, and slowly, year by year, the words began to plant seeds in her heart, not seeds of gratitude, but seeds of pride. By the time she turned 17, Adaeze no longer just knew she was beautiful. She had begun to wear her beauty like armor, like a crown no one had given her, but which she claimed for herself. She spent hours at the river, staring at her reflection in the clear water, tilting her head this way and that, touching her cheeks, admiring the curve of her neck. She would miss chores to do this. She would arrive late to help her mother at the market because she had stopped to catch her image in a neighbor's window. "Adaeze, come and help me pound this yam," her mother would call from the compound. "I'm coming, Mama," she would reply, but her eyes would still be fixed on her face, in the cracked piece of mirror she kept hidden beneath her sleeping mat. Her sisters grew resentful. Her brothers teased her. "Adaeze, you think you are the Queen of Sheba?" The youngest one, Obina, would say, laughing, but she would only smile and toss her head, walking away as if she had not heard him. At the village stream, where the women gathered every morning to wash clothes and fill their pots, Adaeze became a distraction. She would kneel by the water's edge, not to fetch water, but to stare at herself. She would arrange her wrapper just so, adjust the beads around her neck, run her fingers through her hair. The other girls would whisper among themselves, "She thinks she is better than us. Let her continue. Pride comes before a fall." But Adaeze did not care. The river had become her mirror, her companion, her shrine. And the more she looked, the more she loved what she saw. The more she loved what she saw, the less she saw anyone else. One morning, an old woman named Mama Oliaku came to the stream. She was bent with age, her wrapper faded and worn, her hands trembling as she lowered her pot into the water. She stumbled, and the pot slipped, splashing water across the rocks. Adaeze was standing nearby, admiring her reflection as always. "My daughter, please help me," Mama Oliaku said, her voice thin and tired. Adaeze glanced at her, then back at the water. "I am busy, Mama. Ask someone else." The other women froze. The stream seemed to go silent. Even the birds stopped singing. Mama Oliaku straightened as much as her back would allow and looked at Adaeze with eyes that had seen many seasons. "Busy?" she repeated softly. "Busy looking at yourself while an elder suffers?" Adaeze shrugged, her gaze still fixed on her reflection. "There are many people here, Mama. Someone will help you." The old woman said nothing more. She bent slowly, filled her pot with trembling hands, and lifted it onto her head. As she turned to leave, she paused and spoke, her voice carrying across the water like a prayer. "The river gives to those who respect it, but it will take away from those who use it only to feed their pride." Adaeze laughed lightly. "The river loves me, Mama. Look how beautiful it makes me." Mama Oliaku shook her head and walked away, and the morning continued as if nothing had happened. But something had shifted. The air felt heavier. The water seemed darker. The next morning, Adaeze returned to the stream, as she always did. She knelt by the edge, leaned forward, and looked down into the water. Nothing. She blinked. The water was clear. She could see the stones at the bottom, the tiny fish darting between the reeds, but she could not see her face. She moved closer, leaning until her nose nearly touched the surface. Still nothing. It was as though the water had decided she no longer existed. "What is this?" she whispered, her heart beginning to race. She cupped her hands and splashed water onto her face, then looked again. Nothing. She ran to another part of the stream, where the water pooled and stilled. She looked down. The trees were reflected. The sky was reflected. But not her. Panic bloomed in her chest like a thorn bush. She ran home and grabbed her piece of broken mirror. She held it up to her face. It was blank. She screamed. Her mother came running. "Adaeze, what is it? What is wrong?" "Mama, I can't see myself. The mirror, it's empty. The river, it won't show me." Mama Nkem took the mirror from her daughter's shaking hands and looked into it. She saw her own face clearly. She handed it back to Adaeze. "Look again." Adaeze looked. Still nothing. Her mother's face grew serious. "What have you done, my daughter?" Adaeze told her everything about Mama Oliaku, about the words at the stream, about the curse. Mama Nkem sat down heavily on a wooden stool and covered her face with her hands. "You refused to help an elder. You mocked the wisdom of someone who has lived long enough to speak with the ancestors." She looked up at her daughter, and her eyes were filled with sorrow. "Pride has taken your reflection, Adaeze, and now you must find it again, but not in the water, not in the mirror." Days passed. Adaeze could not see herself anywhere, not in glass, not in water, not even in the polished side of a cooking pot. She began to avoid people. She stopped going to the stream. She covered her face with a shawl and stayed inside the compound, her spirit sinking lower and lower. Without her reflection, she felt invisible. Without her beauty to admire, she felt worthless. She wept at night, alone on her mat, and for the first time in years, she thought about someone other than herself. She thought about Mama Oliaku. She thought about the other women at the stream. She thought about her mother's tired hands and her father's bent back, and all the time she had been too busy looking at herself to see the people who loved her. One evening, she went to her mother. "Mama, what must I do?" Mama Nkem looked at her daughter with tenderness. "Go back to the river, but this time, do not go to see yourself. Go to serve others." The next morning, before the sun rose, Adaeze went to the stream. She did not look at the water. She did not search for her face. Instead, She knelt by the edge and began to wash the clothes her mother had left in a basket. She fetched water for the elderly women who arrived. She helped a young girl carry her heavy pot. She smiled at those who had once whispered about her, and she asked for nothing in return. Days became weeks. Adaeze worked quietly, humbly, without complaint. She no longer wore her beauty like a crown. She wore her service like a quiet song. One morning, as she knelt to fill a pot, a voice called out to her, "My daughter." She looked up. It was Mama Oliaku. The old woman came closer, her eyes soft. "You have changed." Adaeze bowed her head. "Yes, Mama. I am sorry. I was blind before. I only saw myself." Mama Oliaku placed a wrinkled hand on Adaeze's head. "The river sees you now, child. Look." Adaeze hesitated, then slowly lowered her eyes to the water. Her reflection stared back at her, but it was different. It was softer, kinder. The pride was gone. In its place was something deeper, something real. Tears filled her eyes and she whispered, "Thank you." Mama Oliaku smiled. "You were always beautiful, Adaeze, but now you are more than that. Now, you have learned that beauty without humility is like a flower without roots. It withers quickly and feeds no one." From that day forward, Adaeze never forgot the lesson the river had taught her. She became known not just for her face, but for her gentle heart, her helping hands, and her quiet strength. And when people spoke of her, they no longer said, "She is the most beautiful girl in the village." Instead, they said, "She is the one who sees others." The moral: a mirror shows your face, but only humility shows your heart. The one who serves is greater than the one who is admired. For beauty fades like morning mist, but a kind spirit shines forever. In with that habit is the scrab laws.